Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Friday, June 13th. Today is day 616 since October 7th of 2023. If you've not heard by now, I'd be surprised, but the most significant update in the last 24 hours, which began very late last night and in the early morning hours of the Middle East, is that Israel has attacked Iran. Urgent news is unfolding even right now on Friday afternoon. I'm on the East Coast in the United States. So here's what I've learned that are kind of broad brushstrokes about what's happening. So last night, Middle East Eye reported, as did numerous other international news outlets, that Israel launched strikes on Iran early Friday local time, which was a dramatic escalation in long-running tensions between the two countries. Netanyahu said the operation targeted Iran's nuclear program and, quote, will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat, end quote. You'll note, and I think I have this to share with you, but you'll note that other Israeli leaders said that it's impossible for Israel to completely destroy the entire nuclear program within Iran. But Netanyahu has made that the aim of these attacks. Tasnim, the state media arm of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, IRGC, confirmed that Hossein Salami, who's the commander-in-chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, was killed. Salami was at the IRGC headquarters in Tehran when he was killed in Israel's attack on the building. Now, the U.S. has said that they're not involved in the action, according to the Trump administration, adding that Israel acted unilaterally. This is a quote from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who last night, U.S. time, said, "We're not involved in strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region." You'll recall that Iran said earlier this week, if they were attacked, that U.S. assets in the Middle East would be vulnerable. The Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, formally found this week that Iran is not complying with its nuclear obligation for the first time in 20 years. Now, this morning, 8 a.m. East Coast time, we learned increased information that Israel had targeted Iran's nuclear sites, particularly the main enrichment facility at Natanz. We've talked about that location numerous times over the last 19 months, and the country's ballistic missile program was one of the main targets. General Hossein Salami was killed, the leader of Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard, confirmed dead, and the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said that other top military officials and scientists were also killed. Both sites in Iran have been the focus of Trump's nuclear negotiations as the U.S. and Iran have been trying to reach a deal. Trump said that he had warned Netanyahu against launching an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities while diplomatic efforts were still underway. That just happened Monday of this last week. On Friday, Trump again urged Iran to reach a nuclear deal, warning that attacks would only make things worse. These attacks pushed the region into a new and uncertain phase. The death of Iranian officials also marks a significant blow to Tehran's governing theocracy, and of course, the most obvious and immediate escalation of the conflict between Iran and Israel. Now, Iran did respond with a counter drone attack that took place this morning, Eastern time, Friday morning. Iran had vowed to retaliate, and Israel said it had begun shooting down Iranian drones outside of Israeli territory. Some of the drones weren't prevented from entering Israeli territory. Iran's foreign minister told the UN that the attacks amounted to a declaration of war. President Trump told the Wall Street Journal on Friday that he had been aware of Israel's plans to attack Iran. And the Navy directed another destroyer, USS Thomas Hudner, towards the Eastern Mediterranean after the strikes. The USS Harry Truman had been returned home over the last couple of weeks. At one point, there were 3 aircraft carriers in the Middle East, but I don't know the exact count now. But the USS Hudner headed out in that direction today. Netanyahu said the original date set for these attacks was April of 2025, but that it was prevented from going forward. He did not specifically articulate why. And Arab states have condemned the attacks as a violation of Iranian sovereignty. U.S. congressional responses have differed in large part across party lines. Republican senators said that they strongly supported Israel's decision, while some Democrats were more critical and said that the U.S. should have upheld its nuclear deal with Iran. What's next? Netanyahu hinted at further strikes, saying that the military operation would last as many days as it takes. Israel has planned 2 weeks of operations, 14 days, according to senior officials. The U.S. warned Iran against attacking U.S. forces in the region, which, as I mentioned earlier, Tehran has threatened to do. Now, just 13 minutes before I recorded this video, Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei said that Iran's armed forces will leave Israel helpless. And this is 10:30 Pacific time. Ali Khamenei said that Iran's armed forces, that quote also, I have another news source for that quote, that Israel would not remain unscathed and Tehran will not go for half measures in its response. So there was a televised message from Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to the Iranian nation, early this afternoon, East Coast time. Houthi supporters have protested in Yemen. They have been threatened with air and a naval blockade by Israel. That happened on Tuesday. And the Houthis are one of Iran's few allies that's still active and engaged since the Gaza crisis has spilled more broadly throughout the Middle East. Now, this is the quote I was saying, where Israeli leaders have said that a military campaign cannot totally destroy Iran's nuclear program. This is Israeli National Security Advisor Hanegbi said that today after Israel launched their attacks against Iran. But the military campaign could, quote, create the conditions for a long-term deal that would be led by the United States that would completely thwart the nuclear program. So those were direct quotes from Israel's National Security Advisor Hanegbi. He made those on Israeli television. Israel has long planned subterfuge, according to sources, that Mossad commandos deep inside of Iran worked to destroy Iranian weapons systems. This was a part of the attack on the nuclear and military targets. Another official said that Israel used a ploy to suggest that a strike was not imminent. And then Israeli officials speaking on the condition of anonymity because of the clandestine nature of operations described secret and lengthy preparations that went into an attack that sent oil prices sharply higher because of fears of regional escalation. Now, the U.S. has warned missiles, drones, and rockets are currently over Iraq airspace. And Iraq has suspended air traffic at all airports and closed its airspace. In the event of such an incident, seek overhead cover and shelter in place. Do not expose yourself to falling debris. The U.S. State Department said in a security alert that was just recently issued. The Israeli military says it has identified the launch of another missile from Yemen towards Israel from the Houthis, and that peace summit that we've been talking about, that the French and Saudis were convening next week, the 17th to the 19th at the United Nations, has now been postponed or canceled. A UN conference, this was the two-state solution conference. Churches for Middle East Peace was supposed to be a part of that. And that has been postponed in large part because Arab leaders and others can't leave the region. But the Iran-Israel escalations also changed the dynamics in terms of what's next immediately on the horizon. So after Israel's attack late last night, Iran counterattacked, promising a harsh response. Israel said about 100 drones this morning were launched towards Israeli territory in retaliation. Iran's Noor News said that 78 people have been killed, 329 injured in Iran as a result of the Israeli attacks. We do know that the main nuclear enrichment facility at Natanz suffered significant damage. Iranian state media said that 6 nuclear scientists have been killed, and the price of crude oil leapt by almost 7% on fears of wider retaliatory attacks across the significant oil producing region. Stock markets fell, gold prices rallied, airlines have canceled their flights and quit the airspace over Israel, Iran, Iraq, and Jordan. Then, just this afternoon, within the last hour, a second wave of Israeli airstrikes have begun. Another round of attacks towards Iran. This was, hours after the initial strike against the nuclear program and military leadership. President Trump told the Wall Street Journal on Friday that he was aware of Israel's plans to the attack. He said, heads up. It wasn't a heads up. It was, well, we know what's been going on. Earlier, he urged Iran's leadership to make a deal before there's nothing left, saying that Israel had access to lethal military equipment that was manufactured by the United States and that Israel knows how to use it. 200 fighter jets were a part of the first attack, according to Israel. And Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Iran said Israel should expect severe punishment, as I mentioned previously. So 2 major generals have been killed. It's possible that this could be numerous days in a row of extended operations. As I mentioned, Israel has said the plan has called for 14. Long before Israel's attacks, Israeli agents smuggled explosive drones and other guided weapons into Iran, according to officials. And we'll pay close attention to what happens related to oil prices. And as I mentioned, the 3 major US indexes that fell this morning at the open. Churches for Middle East Peace put out a statement. It should be out any minute now. By the time you watch this, it will be out, included in our weekly Friday bulletin. It will also be on our website, condemning the attacks on Iran, including the reported strikes, that have been in civilian areas, affecting dozens of civilians. And we also call on Iran to cease their counterattacks, that military solutions are not the answer and will only cause more death, destruction, and harm. Such escalations not only cause civilian deaths, but further destabilize the entire peace and security of the region. I also wanted to give you an update before I close on the global activists who've been making their way towards Gaza to call to break the siege on Gaza. We've been talking about the global activists from the Madeleine earlier this week. Egypt detained nearly 200 foreigners who flew in to participate in the Gaza march that we've been talking about. And the Global March to Gaza, that movement claims that there have been 4,000 activists from over 80 different countries in an attempt to break Israel's blockade. Activists have flown into Cairo to join the grassroots land convoy that set off from the Tunisian capital on Monday. So I reported about that group coming from Tunisia. I didn't actually know that that was a part of the formal Global March to Gaza. The goal has been for them to reach the Rafah border, which the Philadelphia corridor was taken over by Israel months ago. This is a symbolic act to spotlight Israel's crippling 18 years of a siege against Gaza. Of course, it's become much more acute in past months. Thousands of volunteers from Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, and Tunisia left the Tunisian capital. There were more than 100 vehicles in a convoy to raise international awareness about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and to deliver life-saving aid. An online tracker shows you could follow the group from the Libyan city of Misrata as of Thursday afternoon, but the Egyptian government ended up arresting a number of these activists, and they issued a statement instructing the organizers to apply for permission, but the organizers say that the authorities have applied. The organizers of the march applied for permission, but did not receive a response. They said that they had multiple requests to proceed and that they were going to continue with their plans. According to organizers, plainclothes police rounded up activists in Cairo hotels questioning them, at times confiscating mobile phones and searching belongings, that there were interrogations. Some activists, as I mentioned, a couple hundred were arrested, others were released. On Wednesday, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry issued a statement welcoming the international, regional, official, and popular positions in support of Palestinian rights, but they said that participants had to submit an official request to Egyptian embassies abroad. Now, the Israeli Defense Minister Katz urged Egyptian authorities to block, quote, jihadist protesters, insisting that they would endanger the safety of Israeli soldiers and should not be allowed. Katz added that if Cairo fails to halt the march, Israeli forces would intervene to stop it. But a government source within Egypt was quoted by Madam Masr as saying that the Egyptian authorities had tried to coordinate with departure countries in order to prevent participants from actually making it to Egypt. I'm sure there's many other things that I could share. We're watching the news very closely. We'll provide another daily update tomorrow, but all the more, may we pray for peace and not give up in our efforts. We've been talking about escalations to a broader regional or even global war for months and months and months. And it seems like the violence only seems to get worse and worse. And so that means our work is all the more important. May God go before us and may peace come quickly. In the name of Christ, amen.